Hello, people. Welcome back to the fourth episode of this thrilling series where we see a wall charger taking form right before our eyes. Uh, this episode, we're going to talk about split lines and how to create them. And just to illustrate what a split line can look like, I've done it already on our design here. So we're going to rewind and redo it in three different ways, actually. So let me put some color onto this one to illustrate what I mean. Get rid of the model, and you see this gap right here that goes all around is what we refer to as a split line. It is the separation between two different details of the design. So in this case, this could be something that could come off in order to get to the electronics inside. So the lid up here is one part, and the bottom down here would be another part. And as usual, we only work with visible surfaces and what looks good. So we don't have to take any consideration into manufacturability and so on, thickness of the material and all that. We just wanted to look realistic in our renderings at this stage anyway. So I'm going to actually open up the design that ended the last episode. So over recent and final assignment 2, we delete all of that. And here is where we are. Now there are a number of ways of creating split lines depending on what illusion you want to create in your rendering. And we're going to cover just one here, but obviously if different parts have different materials, if they're glued together, screwed together, and so on, will affect the look of the transition between those two details and obviously also the split line. But let's pretend we have a lid here that comes off somehow or has been ultrasonic welded onto the bottom or something like that. There are, as I mentioned, a number of tools we can use to create this. And I'm going to start by using the fully automatic tool, which when it works is a beautiful tool that does a lot of the work. However, you may run into some problems using that tool, so you will also need to know how to manually create the surfaces needed. But let's look at the easy way first. So I'm gonna define my split line as an offset of this top surface right here. If we look at it like this. So I'm gonna offset this down so it intersects below the start of this radius that goes around here. So if I pick the surface, then go Object Edit, Offset, and the control box here is already set to 14 since I tried this before. We want our offset, which will create a surface with equal distance to its mother surface at any given point, really. So we want to offset this 14 millimeters down. So let's do that offset. Where did it go? Oh, it's right in here, isn't it? And in fact, it has been trimmed the same way as the top surface, which is of no use for us. So I'm gonna pick that surface and untrim it using the untrim tool and options box and all, and then go this is what the original surface looked like. You remember the top surface before it was trimmed, but this has been now offset 14 millimeters down. Also, we don't need the kernel surfaces associated with that surface, so let's delete those. Pick the kernel surface and then delete. We now have a surface intersecting our design in a lovely way. So the intersection here is going to be base for our split line. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pick the surface and then intersect. This is also found under surface edit, create kernel surface, intersect, and so on. But please do use the marking menus. So I'm going to go intersect. Oh, wait, what's happening here? So pick the surface, intersect, pick all of the other surfaces, and hide away our offset surface. This one goes into a new layer that I will call no show, like that, and assign that surface to that layer and turn it off. So what do I have here? Well, I got a kernel surface going all around the design, which is just what I need to use this panel gap tool. So let's bring up the panel gap tool. It's hidden under surfaces, rolled edge, and panel gap. And of course, we bring up the options box there as well to see what we have here. So what this tool does, it creates a gap in this surface. It creates a flange, which is a perpendicular surface to this one, not only one, but one on each side of the gap. And it also rounds off this flange intersection with the outer surface. And it does that simply by picking your defined split line. First of all, it asks you whether you want to have a primary side or a centered split line. I'm going to go with a centered one, like that. And then you can set the gap distance. It's set to 2 millimeters here, which is fine. We can make it maybe 3 just to pull around. And then it asks, what kind of radius do you want between the flange and the surface? I want a circular one, radius 1, on both sides of the gaps. Also, it asks whether I want to create a flange or not, and what angle it should be swept. So I want a 90-degree flange, and I want the length of that flange to be 3 millimeters. It'll clear up once it does it. So let's continue clicking our way around. Clicking on the kernel surface, which is a curve associated with the mother surface, like so. And if we are happy with that, we click accept and we get 2 arrows, and those should be pointing to the center of the radius as well. So this arrow seems to be wrong. So I click on that one to turn it inwards, and then it creates something here. Looky. Let's see what we got, and if it's correct. We can find a spot to actually see what it has done here. Kind of hard. Here we can see it. So we see the radius right here. We see part of the flange going inwards like that. We know that there is a gap in between the two surfaces, and we see also the top radius and the top flange right there. The only thing we're not assisted with here is to fill in that gap. I'm going to go with pick nothing and see what that looks like. Now you can see it a lot clearer, can't you? So we have the flange, we have the radius on the bottom part, we have the gap in between, which needs to be filled in, and we can do that simply by using a skin. So I click on that curve and the corresponding curve below, like so, and there we have it. We have filled in that gap, and that looks rather nice, I would say. I'm not going to do it all the way around because we're going to do it manually in just a minute. So let's pick nothing and get rid of the model. And now you can see that the gap has been filled with material, and it looks a lot more natural than keeping it open like that. So that's the easy way to do it. In case this now somehow screws up, which it occasionally does, we need other ways of doing this. So let's bring back the model. In fact, I think it did just that. I saw something down here which doesn't look very nice. We have a gap between the surfaces there. We have a gap between the surfaces there. It's obviously fixable. You can fill in this gap quite easily. But sometimes the panel gap tool does not work at all. So let's find a different way, a manual way, the foolproof way of doing this. So I'm going to open up my model again. Delete this one, which brings us back here. Once again, I'm going to use the offset tool to define my split line, but I'm going to offset the surface actually twice to create that gap. So I pick the surface, I go Object Edit, Offset, downwards. Let's make that, well, we can make it 14, that's fine. So offset, and also untrim it as I did before, like so. Get rid of our curved surface on this big one here. And once I've done that, again, offset it. So I pick that surface and once more offset, but this time only the gap size, which was, I believe, 2 millimeters. So let's put 2 in there and hope it goes the right way. No, wait. What's going on here? Why don't I get that pinkish preview? Pick surface, Object Edit, Offset, 2 millimeters. It's not doing it. What is going on here? Pick surface. Offset 2 millimeters. I'm gonna need to pause this one and get back to you. Okay, it had an easy solution to this, so I'm gonna go first of all, Object Edit, Offset, and then click my surface. There we go. So I'm gonna reverse that arrow, set the distance to the gap size, which was 2 millimeters, and then click Offset. And that brings me to offset surfaces. And I'm going to use, you can see clearly that there is a 2 millimeter gap in between them. So I'm going to intersect those two by picking them and then go intersect and picking all of the other surfaces. Something has happened here. I'm going to pause this. All right, let's start over. Sorry about that. I ended up with a bunch of thermal surfaces I didn't need. Now we're going to offset the surface once more. So I go object edit, offset, click on my surface, reverse the arrow, set it to 14 millimeters, like that, and then go offset. And I need to untrim this surface as well. And I go all like that one, like so. Get rid of all the curves on surface by deleting them like that. And now I have one surface that I need to offset the gap distance. So we once again click offset and go 2 millimeters. Click on the surface, switch the arrow and go offset. And now I have my two surfaces defining the gap. So I want to intersect those by picking those two surfaces and then go intersect and then selecting all of the other surfaces. And now you can see, let's hide those again in our not yet defined layer. So I'm going to define one called no show once again. Making this the active one, but assign my surfaces here. Now I have two curves on surfaces going all the way around our design, and we're going to use those to manually create our split line here. And to do so, we have a number of different tools that we need to use. The first one being, see if I can find it. It's called the multi-surface draft tool to create the actual flange going in. So I use this tool to create an angular surface towards another surface. And I set the angle to 90 degrees or minus 90, depending on how it counts. So I click on my curved surface like that, and I get a proposal, which we can see here. It's going to point inwards, which is exactly what I want, at 90 degrees. I'm just going to do it on this section right here. It's no fun going all the way around. It works the same way. So let's build that one. So I now create a flange going from this curved surface 90 degrees to the surface. What was the depth now? I need to check that. Not that one, but that one. 2 millimeters of depth into the material. So I do the same thing on the upper curved surface and go build. So I have another flange here. I then probably need to trim this surface right here because it has not been trimmed yet. So I want to keep the part down here and the part up here. So let's do that. Let's trim it and keep that and that. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so I got a flange and a gap. Now I just need a radius on this sharp edge right here and up here. And I can do that either by using round or surface fillet. Let's go with surface fillet and see what that does. So surface, multi-surface fillet, set that to a small radius, which is circular. That needs to be maybe just 1 millimeter or something. And we click on that one, and then we click on that one. Make sure the arrows are pointing inwards towards the center of the radius, and go with auto update. And we can't really trim this surface yet, so I'm gonna, well, maybe we can. Let's do it. Let's see. Yeah, it worked. So I go next, and then take the upper part, which is this one, and that one, and then auto update on that as well. So what we got here now is pretty much identical to what the panel gap tool did automatically for us. We have a gap, which is 2 millimeter. We have a flange, which was 2 millimeters before we rounded it off, but it should be around 1 millimeter deep. And we look at that in shaded mode. You can see that we've done almost the same thing. Only problem is we need to go all the way around to do this, and also to fill in that gap using our skin tool. Oh, what happened there? There we go. So to finalize this, let's use our skin tool, click on that curve and that one. See what that looks like. Now we've filled in the gap as well for this section. Again, you need to go all the way around to do this, but this is more of a foolproof way of doing it, rather than just relying on the panel gap tool. I'm not going to bore you anymore. I'll see you guys in class and answer any questions you might have. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you. Bye-bye.